Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
It is Life Planning 101 on a Monday. Terry on vacation. Angela with me on Life Planning 101. Good morning. Happy Monday. You love the weather.
Yes, it is beautiful weather and all that rain. Everything's so green. And I was actually talking to someone in Lubbock, Texas yesterday. We need to pray for them. They still haven't had any. So I thought we were the only ones that hadn't had any. But we are grateful. I know anybody can appreciate that with the rain. So we have an awesome show lined out today. And this really came out of the way of, the wake of so many changes around retirement plans. If you remember back in, it was in the end of 2000, and oh my gosh, this is hard to say these words, into 2019, the regulation came out because I was reading it over Christmas. It was the Secure Act. And there were some really massive changes around IRAs, 401ks, those types of things. And then COVID hit. So we really didn't realize, I think, the extent of what those changes were, because many of them got kind of softened, such as not having to take an RMD last year. And all of a sudden, everything's it come into full fruition. And then as many regulations happen, what ends up happening as time goes on, you start having to use some of those regulations. And so you're realizing the changes and people are getting kind of sidewiped with them. And so, the bottom line is that if you've got IRAs or you've got retirement plans, there's a good chance that the mounting regulation that has occurred in this industry, like many other industries, is just so complex that it's hard to figure out what you can be doing, what you should be doing, what really your dangers are out there. And it reminds me of a lady that, that was browsing a store, and the assistant saw her and they started chatting it up, and she was telling her about how she was retired and she was so excited and how much she enjoyed it, and all these things that she was going to do and able to do. And, the saleswoman was talking about, well, I'm so excited to retire too. I want to know what it's like. And they just go on and on and on. And finally, she asked the lady, she said, so how long have you been retired? And the lady replies, well, this is my first day. And it was her first day. So she went on and on and on, and it was her first day. And, I think too often we do that with our retirement money too, right? We think about what the neighbor is up to and what they've been doing, and we've been taking all their advice because they're freshly, newly retired. And is that really the right thing to do? And I would challenge that. I would challenge that for a number of reasons. The first being is that your situation probably isn't like your neighbor's. And this has gotten to a place that, yeah, there's rules and regulations that everybody has to follow, but unique advice is wanted, is needed in many of these areas because it is complex, and something that's an opportunity for you may not be an opportunity for them, and something that might be a danger to you may not be a danger to them, and vice versa. So the question is it simply enough to just speak with an investment advisor about this, or speak with an accountant, or your insurance agent, or even your financial planner? And the answer is, this might be a shocker, but it depends. It depends because the person that you need to be speaking to about this really needs to have specific training in the area of retirement plans, 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, 457s, whatever you're doing. And not every investment advisor does. Not every accountant does. Not every insurance agent does. Not every financial planner does. And sometimes it may take someone that has some specific training in that area that needs to engage some of these other professionals to help get the job done. And, we're always talking about how critical it is for your professionals to work together. And I think this is one of those areas that's becoming more and more important for those professionals to work together. I can't tell you how many times that we have a CPA run a pro forma for us so we can look at, what would it be to do Roth conversions, or if there's company stock owned inside of a retirement plan and pulling that company stock out, there's actually some tax rules around that that can help you. And, are all those things happening? And so you as the consumer, so to speak, you as the person that owns the IRA, owns the retirement plan, how do you know if you're working with the right people? Well, that's what today's show is about. And I've got 10 questions that you can be asking your financial professionals right now to know if they're in the right seat or they are the right person to be able to help you navigate through these crazy waters. And we're going to be talking about that on Life Planning 101. You're not going to want to miss it.
A lot of people are scared because they think that, it's not my place to ask questions. They're scared to ask if someone's qualified.
That's right. That's right. So I'm going to give you really good questions. You don't have to come out and say that. You could do it in a way that's subtle and they'll never know. You can you can play well, I can't say this because I'm not a blonde. You can play the blonde card. Forgive me before I even gave that one out, but that's right. So you're not going to miss it on Life Planning 101 today.
And we are back on Life Planning 101 on a gorgeous Monday morning. Angela's in the studio. We're talking about people that handle your money when you're retired. That's a huge topic.
It is a huge topic, and it's really attention to all IRA and retirement plan owners because, and Jeff, you brought up a good point during the break. There's a difference between the actual investment management and then the retirement plan itself. And you're probably thinking, well, what do you really mean by that? It's all money. And that's true. But the rules and regulations around what the retirement plan is not just what the investments are. It can have major impacts on your taxation. It can have major impacts on your family. It can have major impacts on your overall retirement goals as it is. So, if you're really just focused on the investments, you may be making a mistake. And it is a part of that. And it is a part of what we're going to be talking about, but it's not everything. And so what are we actually talking about? Well, we're talking about finding someone that's specifically trained in the area to be able to help you with your IRA and retirement plan and really understands these rules and regulations and keeps up to date with them because they're changing so quickly. And here's 10 questions, okay, so that you're going to be able to ask. And I think, you mentioned it's hard to just come out and ask questions. Well, these are very subtle, but they're very good questions. And it's really going to give you an idea of, is this person really qualified to be able to help me out in this area? The first and foremost thing is, and this is a word that's been thrown out a lot over the last several years in our industry, but it's, are you a fiduciary advisor? So first of all, what the heck is a fiduciary if you don't know? Well, a fiduciary is kind of like the highest degree of ethical obligation to you. In other words, a fiduciary is required to act in your best interest. They have to put your interest above their own. And the reason that this came to be so prominent is that products were being sold left and right. You heard me. Products were being sold left and right that didn't necessarily fit someone's unique situation and weren't in that person's best interest. So there's been a lot of rules around this. In fact, the DOL has been hitting this hot and heavy, especially on the selling side of the industry. And, it really doesn't matter if you're managing money or if you're selling a product, you have to act as a fiduciary and in that client's best interest. And so, is the advisor you're working with a fiduciary advisor? Well, you may or may not have a fiduciary advisor, and it's important to ask that. And you could just ask it straight up like that. And really, there's only one answer. There should be a direct yes. So if you don't get a direct yes out of that, that means you might not be getting independent, conflict-free advice. I'd say that's pretty important.
It's huge.
That's huge, right? So that's why it's number one on our list. Number two, what resources do you have to keep current with tax laws regarding retirement plans? What resources do you have to keep current with tax laws regarding retirement plans? And you can ask for a list or some examples of that. Honestly, credentials, licenses really can mean nothing, especially today. I just think about when I came into the industry 15 years ago and what it is today compared to then. I'm like, wow. I think about the changes that have happened, and keeping up with things is critical. So a well-informed professional or advisor in the area of retirement plans spends numerous hours on continuing their education in that area, and they keep abreast of the industry changes and how they're impacting their clients. So I would just simply ask, how are you keeping up with all these changes? And, do you have some examples or list of the resources that you use to use that? Retirement plans. So this is kind of a good, help you out and see how it might be applicable to you. But it's also really a test of what they just told you in number 2, right? Because at the end of the day, and I don't mean this critical, but I have many, many friends in the industry that are great salesmen. So I have many, many friends in the industry that are great salesmen. Most advisors are great salesmen because of one thing, if not one thing only. It's because they really believe in what they do. And so, unfortunately, that can get in the way of, what might actually work best for you. And they may think that they're doing everything in their power, but maybe they're not even aware of the resources that are out there. So this is kind of one of those teasers. The news is filled with proposed changes to the tax code right now. Have you noticed? Has anybody noticed? Yeah, like a little bit going on, but they're not actual changes. So what do you really need to know about all this talk? What do you need to have in your, wheelhouse? What do you need to be paying attention to? And what are the actual laws in place today that might affect you? Those are really important things to know. Number 4, what changes have you made regarding that tax law change? So you just gave them a good way to be able to talk to you about the tax law change, right? And basically, what you're looking for is that they're not telling you what's in the news. They're telling you actually something that's happened. And then what have they done about that with their client base? Because I have seen this, and unfortunately, some of the industries set up this way that unless they sell you something new, they don't get paid again. Yeah, it's kind of sad, right? So what really do they do to help you on an ongoing basis? And it's a fair question to ask that. Some people get paid on an annual basis and continue that annual pay throughout retirement. Some people don't.
Is it okay to call your advisor and ask them, like someone you're currently using, hey, does this tax law affect my retirement?
Absolutely.
So you can be proactive and not wait for someone to call you.
That's right. And you should, you should be asking. I had some really good friends we've been working with for 2 decades now. And they called in about all this stuff going on the news all the time. And they're just like, what should we be doing? Should we be concerned? Our next door neighbor's doing this, And we looked at their stuff again and we said, well, really where you're sitting right now and where your children are sitting, from your perspective, the tax law changes that are being proposed would not have a significant impact on you. And it may cost you more to make changes ahead of the game before we actually know what that regulation is going to look like. And that's not everybody's situation, but it's theirs. And it's really important that you're not just making a decision based on what your neighbor's saying, and like you said, be proactive, call. It's, we want you to call. If you're our client, we want you to call if you have those questions, because we want to be able to put your mind to rest that you're, at least have all the information out there so that you can make well-informed decisions. That's important. So what changes have you made in regard to that tax advice? And, this is, I think, also where you can find out if the rubber meets the road, because you'll be able to hear them talk about where they're learning some of their strategies. What are they doing to be able to help families work around these constraints that might be prohibiting them from having a better retirement or being able to give the gifting they want to their kids or whatever their goals are. That's extremely important to be able to kind of key in on what they're telling you is it creative or is it just in the box thinking? And what do you really want when you're working with someone in this realm, right? And number 5, so how do you navigate your tax planning for each of your clients? Being a well-informed professional or advisor with retirement plans is one thing, but if you don't go put that with the overall tax planning for that client, then you're really doing a disservice, because taxes and retirement plans are almost synonyms. So, everything that comes out of a retirement plan, with the exception of Roth or after-tax money, is taxable. And if you're not looking at it from a tax angle and having someone help you look at it from a tax angle, not just on what's impacting your retirement plan, but impacting everything else, that could be a serious consequence. Think about if your spouse passed away and you go from a married filing joint status to a single status, what's that do to your taxes? How does that affect your overall retirement plan? Is it going to hurt you? And is your person that's helping you with all this really navigating, not only your goals, your situation, but also working with your CPA or enrolled agent or your tax accountant, whoever that is, that makes sure that everything's working out smoothly. And it's not just looking at what needs to happen today and this year, but they're looking ahead, because that can make a massive impact too. We've mentioned on the show before Medicare. Your Medicare premiums are based, your Medicare Part B premiums are based upon how much your overall income is going to be. So if you wait to take any money out of your retirement plan until the ripe old age of 72 and you've built up this large nest egg, you may get another nasty surprise. I think we've mentioned the story of the gentleman on the show that we were running out his plan, and we found out that his tax bill and Medicare bill, because of an RMD, was going to go up almost $50,000 a year. Ouch. In 1 year. So is that something that needs to be planned for ahead of time, or can you just deal with that in the year that it comes? So going back to what you said, Jeff, maybe you should be asking, what are we doing now for the future, not just for today? So more of these great questions on retirement plans, what you need to know and what you need to be asking when we come back on Life Planning 101.
And we are back with the final segment of Life Planning 101 with Angela Robinson, and a lot of good advice, a lot of good questions this morning.
Yes, attention IRA owners, right? Retirement plan owners. And here's some questions that you not only need to know, but you need to be asking your financial professional. And the goal is to make sure you have a well-informed financial professional to help you navigate through these changing waters that are happening. And really, the waters are changing across the board. If you haven't noticed, if you haven't been paying any attention to what's going on in the world of events, but there is a ton of waters changing. So it's more important than ever to have the right professionals in your court to be able to help you, and especially with your retirement plans, because for some people, that makes up the majority of their retirement. And, what's that going to mean for you? Well, I think about a joke that I heard once about, have you thought about aging slower? Your 401k is in terrible shape. So, meaning you might not want to retire, right? Which leads us into question number 6. And, Jeff, by the way, you mentioned before we go any further, are these questions going to be on the website? Absolutely. So if you are not subscribed already, subscribe to our newsletter. You can go to www.kennedy-financial.com. and subscribe to our weekly Life Lessons newsletter, where there will be a write-up of these questions. So you can print them down, even has explanations so you remember what you're asking, because they are critical and they're good. So number 6, what courses have you taken and which resources do you use to keep current with how to make IRA and other retirement plan distributions? So there is actual courses you can take just on distribution planning. Distribution planning. So, we started out the show and you were thinking investments, right, Jeff? Have we even touched investments yet? We haven't. We've talked about everything from taxes to the laws and the opportunities, the dangers. Now we're talking about the distributions out of your retirement plan. Well, that's probably the most important component, because why did you put the money in there in the first place? Don't you want to get it back out? So it's critical that you have someone that knows the best way to be able to do this to maximize every dollar out of that retirement plan. Unless you want to minimize every dollar out of that retirement plan. I mean, that works too, I guess, if that's the goal. So they should be well versed in this area and be able to, have some experience. Because experience, I think, is almost just as critical as just being well-versed, because there are some pitfalls that I've seen people take that they just didn't know what they didn't know. And you wouldn't know unless you've had that experience. And so wisdom does play a large part there. Number 7, how do you manage investments? Here we are. We're finally here. Investments within an IRA or retirement plan. And how do you get paid? So there's 3 ways that you basically make money on your retirement assets. You can pay lower taxes, you can pay lower fees, and you can get higher returns. Think about it. If you pay lower taxes, it allows you to keep more of your dollars in your pocket. If you pay lower fees, it allows you to keep more of your dollars in your pocket. And if you get higher returns, then it allows you to make more dollars. They're also counter intuitive, because if you make higher returns, then you're going to pay higher taxes, right? Okay? And some investment advisors are good, and their fees aren't necessarily cheap. I mean, do you want to find the cheapest brain surgeon out there or the best brain surgeon, right? And so really you're looking at the net, meaning what is the net return after the fees? That's what you should really be focused on. As an investment advisor, they should be focused on keeping the fees down inside that portfolio, because that's a biggie. A lot of people don't realize when they go seek investment advice that or their retirement plan advice is they're going to pay the financial advisor one fee, and the financial advisor is going to outsource that money to an investment manager or to a product or to another investment advisor, and there's a double set of fees on there. So is that happening with your retirement plan? Do you know what that is? If you're inside of a qualified retirement plan now, your investment advisor should be comparing those fees and showing you what you're paying now versus what you're going to be paying if you were to move that money over under their management. So that's really important. And then how they get paid. Do they get paid one time up front? If they get paid one time up front, what's their incentive to make sure that investment continues to be a good choice for the future? If they get paid on an annual basis, is it a flat fee, or are they fee-based, meaning that they, if the investments go up, then the fees go up. If the investment values go down, then their fees go down, and they kind of end up on the same side of the fence with you, right? Not such a bad idea, right? So really understanding all of that, I think, is extremely important. And, finding out where they're managing the money. Are they doing it through retail funds? Are they doing it through institutional funds? In other words, are you getting things at retail price, or are you getting them at wholesale price? All those things are critical. So it's extremely important. Number 8 kind of goes hands in hand with this. Does your investment process hedge the risk of a market going down as soon as I begin taking distributions? The worst thing that can happen to most retirees is what's called the sequence of returns risk, meaning that the market goes down as soon as they start taking out income. If you took the same amount of money for someone that the market went straight up after they started taking out money, and someone that the market went straight down after they started taking out money, the person that the market goes straight back down is probably going to not make it to their retirement goals unless they've planned for it. So you have to manage that risk by getting a strategic asset allocation plan in place, diversification, and understanding how to respond to changing market conditions. You've got to have a plan in place, and it's critical for those distributions. Number 9, can you tell us what will happen to our retirement accounts when we die? We never think about that, but it's so critical because it's in today's world with the Secure Act, the taxes just went through the roof for your beneficiaries potentially. And you need to know. And you need to know what that's going to look like. And it's probably going to take a team of professionals. It means this professional that's well informed in this area working with your tax professional and your estate planner to get it right. Because it's too important. And the bigger the retirement plan, the more important it gets. And then number 10, how often will you review my overall plan to see if strategies need to change? So we got that regulation in 2019. They're proposing new regulation now. How often do things change? Quite often. We feel like an annual review is a necessary thing. You should always be reviewing, what's going on in the outside world, but don't you have changes in your family dynamics or unique situation that are important too? So, looking at all of that together is critical. You have to look at how to distribute things, minimize taxes, the investments, the beneficiaries. That review is critical on an annual basis. So here's the bottom line. Complexity, right? We got complexity, and it leads to confusion. Confusion, in my world, leads to inaction. That's usually where people go with confusion. They just don't do anything. And inaction, unfortunately, can lead to lost dollars. So when it's your nest egg, is it really worth the confusion, the complexity, and the inaction? I don't think so. I don't think it's worth it. So use these 10 questions. Use them to help you find that individual that you can trust to be able to turn that complexity into opportunity. It's critical. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services here in the great town of Eastland, Texas. God bless all of you. Go to our website, www.kennedy-financial.com. Get these 10 questions and move forward with confidence in your retirement. Have a great week.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Calton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.